moderating today's policy manthan on the topic Should students be the co creators of school policy and curriculum? I am joined by my co moderator Vani, who brings great clarity and perspective. Together, we are excited to hear your views on this important issue. For decades, education has largely been something done to students and not created with them. But today's discussion challenges that idea. Should students have say in how their learning is shaped? Would that make education more relevant and engaging, or it would create confusion and complexity? Yeah. So we are here to explore both the sides with open minds and respectful voices. Before we begin, here are just few simple guidelines for everyone. Keep your cameras on. You will not be allowed to speak with camera off. Speaker will get 2 to 3 minutes to share their views. Please conclude within the time limit. You may agree, disagree, or add to those point, but please do so politely and constructively. Remember, discussion is about ideas and not about individuals. Let's make this space for thoughtful dialogue where every opinion matters and every perspective counts. With that, let's begin our discussion. And now I would like to hand over to my co moderator, Vani, who will take the conversation forward.
Thank you, Rishika. Okay, everyone. So I think 10 people are here. I would really appreciate if you all could, send your names on the chat box so we can start with the first person. Okay. Okay, so there are names coming. So let's start then. The first name is Nishtha.
Yeah,
Uh,
hi. I hope I'm audible.
oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. So I genuinely think that students should be part of shaping school policies and what they learn. When they're involved, education stops being something done to them, and I believe it becomes something done with them. Uh, for example, we take New Zealand, like many schools there include students on curriculum committees and encourage them to co-design like projects based on local issues like sustainability or community health. That kind of involvement, I believe, gives students ownership and teaches them how real decision making works in the real world for their life. In India, I feel like this idea is still new but growing. A few, as per what I've read, a few CBSE and IB schools have started letting students pitch ideas for electives or and design social impact projects that count towards their grades. Some schools even let student councils debate run rules before they are finalized, which helps both teachers and students feel heard. But in most Indian schools, students still have a very little say. Classes are textbooks heavy, and questioning authority isn't always, as we have discussed in the last few sessions, like encouraged. To change that, of course, I feel students could set up a student advisory board to review new teaching methods or run monthly feedback sessions where students talk about what's working and what's not working for them. Even inviting a few student representatives to curriculum review meetings would be, I feel, a big step for now. At the end of the day, giving students a seat at the table does not mean losing control. It means building a more thoughtful democratic school culture. When young people help shape their education, they don't just learn subjects better, but they learn citizenship, which I believe. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
That was great, Nishtha. I love the way you said the quote that giving students a few seats does not take away from the system, and that's great. I do agree with that. That student involvement is very much needed in Indian education system. That was amazing. You did great.
Thank you.
Next is Chaitanya. Chaitanya, if you're there.
Yeah, hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so speaking the today's topic that should students be the co-creators of the school's policy and curriculum making? So my answer is both yes and a no. And what I mean by that is that students should be a part of the school's policy making and not the co-creators. So I'll explain what I mean by that by a model that I propose that should take place in every school. So what I think that is that there's already a pre-existing student council in every school, and that student council should be elected by the students only and not decided by the will of the teachers. Because when it is elected by the students only by the voting process, then moreover it depends on it dictates how the students want to think. So what I want is that the student council should be taken in loop with the schools committee, which is deciding the school's policy. And then it is the responsibility of the student council to represent the students' views about the rules and the curriculum and the policy, what should happen and what should not happen in the school. And why I propose that model is because students of that age group are very rebellious in nature, but that doesn't mean that they don't hold any value to their suggestions or their opinions. But usually, but usually how they want to implement those suggestions is not it's not very much the best way. So what I want is that although their suggestions are helpful and meaningful, so they should be represented through the student council, and then the experienced school committee members can take it upon themselves and execute them in a much more efficient way. So this because and I propose that because I have been a part of such a system because in my school I was also part of the student council and I was elected by the students. So when I noticed or observed anything that should be improved in the school and took it to the higher authorities that my point or my suggestions were given value and holding importance. Uh, so, although I did not really hold any meetings with the high authorities, but any suggestion that I suggested to the high authorities, that it was taken care of. So that really helped me to improve the school system and the school system to improve. So yeah, that's the model that I propose. That should be implemented in every school so that both the needs of the students and the school system is also taken care of. Yeah, that's my point. Thank you all.
That is a very different perspective you have brought out, and actually a realistic one, because that's true. It is better to work through a student council and kind of like filtering out, because you are right. People, every student is not only going to have different opinion, but children are rebellious at that age, and it's good that student council can filter out what's needed and go ahead and have a proper discussion with the councils. That's a good one. Next is Janvi. Janvi, are you there?
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, can anyone hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, so I want to bring out a very unique approach in this. First of all, I want to advocate for before I put my arguments apart, I don't want to take a stance. So what I was saying is that in case, let's say now students in this day and age, let's say my mom did not have anything called as AI when she was in school. She did not have any technological help or help from, she couldn't connect with people around the globe who were, pioneers in their own field of work or their own, educational field or anything. She could not get into touch with any legal scholars, or since I'm a law student and so is my mom, the way we have studied is so different. It's worlds apart. Like I can see when I look at my mom, she did her LLB very recently, and I saw her prepare for her LLB exams, and it is so much difference from how I do it. Because the way she did it, I used to tell her, Mama, can you just take help of the AI? It's easier, you're more equipped and do it. Then she used to tell me, that I don't know what that is, and that is not my way of studying. For them, traditional books, I'll note down the points with a book and a pen is their kind of learning that they've adapted for a while. And since now in the 21st century, you have so much information at your disposal. It's just that I have all the more, more resources, equipments to make use of it. So if students are actually from that particular generation, if students are helping you prepare the policies or help you, do researches or advocate for it, then I think that will be great, because it will ultimately lead to people of their same mindset, or they know what technology is. Now it is sad that even the NEP 2020 that came out, it was a bunch of old men who prepared it. It was a bunch of people who are from the boomer generation who actually put out the entire framework, who, no offense to anyone, who might not know what the kids in these days want. They are thinking from their perspective, like how they studied back in the day is how they are doing it. But I think it, to cater to new needs, you have to bring out younger brains. So I think that should be one of it. That is one thing. Second, arguments in favor that students should be co-creators is that when you bring out inclusivity and equity between people, it's just that diverse perspectives and experience to decisions are adding into the representative curriculum. So they're helping you build the policy in such a way that it is catering to the present day needs. Third one, feedback and transparency, I think is the most important thing. Active student roles maybe like create like a robust feedback loop that, like, in the end help educators and adapt, like, and teachers to adapt to what the needs are of the students, so that the learning process becomes easier and more efficient for both of them. And but I also have a list of arguments which are against this, which is, of course, first, risk of unequal representation, because then again, when we look at education as such, there's primary school, there's high school, secondary school, there's high school, there's undergraduate, postgraduate, PhD. We have different levels, and I think even if you try putting in a bunch of people from every particular curriculum, it just happens that there is not equal representations, one. And if you think there is equal representations, now that there are so many brains, there's a lot of conflict. So it is not easy. The process does not get easier with more people getting involved in the entire decision making process. Second, questionable readiness. I don't think all students are equipped with the maturity or broad perspective needed to make the policy or curricular decisions. It's just that school administrators may struggle to balance student preferences against institutional requirements, because it's also a business for them. It's not just education that they're trying to impart, it's a business, it's a livelihood for someone else. And in that process, I think you'll get into a vicious loop where you're not able to get out of it. And third, I think implementation challenges. I think every time we talk about education in India, that is the most problematic issue that arises. It is the implementation challenges, because incorporating student voice requires robust systems and structures. Without career design or clear boundaries, participation can become or it might lead to logistical hurdles, which in turn will lead to degradation of the already existing educational system. So what I think is that in present day, I think you must, then again, feedback should be open to everyone, one. Two, I think when you're making policy decisions, like okay, so if primary schools policy decisions are being made, I think the opinions of the primary school plus the degree next to it, like the one level higher to it, should also give their opinions, because they've just crossed that phase, so they know what the needs were when they were in that particular stage. Like if I'm in undergraduate program right now, I knew what I needed in 11th and 12th. So if I'm giving my opinion and feedback on what I needed in 11th and 12th, the upcoming students who are in 11th and 12th, it'll be helpful for them. And if you integrate it with what they actually need as well, I think that will really work well for the curriculum as such. So thank you.
That was great. I loved how you also brought out the gaps that we have in the system as well as the things we can do. And you're right. One of the things that you said is right, that we have a bunch of boomers who are deciding for a generation they are very out of touch with, and feedback, which you gave a point, great, and something I need to start. So if anybody has anything they want to add, if somebody has any feedback or maybe a different opinion, please feel free to drop them or let us know. Yeah, so that would be good. Does anybody have any different opinion or maybe add in?
I would just like to appreciate the idea of, bringing a higher grade as well into the picture, where you've just passed that and that stage, and you kind of know what you were lacking and what were the good parts. So I think you'll be able to like weigh in more for the next batch that's going to be in the same grade as you just passed. So that's a great initiative.
Thank you for highlighting that, Ishita. That is actually very, you're right with that. That is a unique one. We can actually take opinion from the ones who have suffered before us. Yeah, so you're right with that one. Thank you, Janvi. Thank you, Ishita. And next we have Sneha. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I
Yeah,
audible?
yeah, you are audible.
Okay, so my answer to this question, should students be co-creators of school policy or curriculum, will be that students should help shape school with a policy and curriculum, but with the help of proper mentorship and structure. Like when I was in my school, I studied in Kerala. The government have a program called Podu Vidyabhyasa Samrakshana Yatnam, where the government they wanted to develop government schools better. And the discussion we had a proper discussion with people who are expertise in the field, and they also had students, like there are the class teachers selected around 10 students. They had to present it before the policy makers, but before that we had a well planned discussions with all the students in our school. And like mentioned before, our school also had a proper election thing. So we had a students council, and we had class leaders who represented each student's voices. So we discussed a lot. It took around 10 days to discuss and come up with policies that the government should take. And we also discussed with expertise in these fields. So I was also part of it. So what I think is that it made us aware what was the problem in the structure from these policymakers and how we could come up with a solution. So I think that was very helpful in the sense that we had proper mentorship and the structure, and we can talk directly with them policy makers, so it would really have an impact. So there's this problem that should students be like, should it be a symbolic representation or participatory representation? Most often what we see is that students are simply given feedback form related to NEP or any other education policy. Like even if we ask that NEP is not better for us, it doesn't work for us, like mentioned by Jarvi, it was designed by people who are above 60 years old something, who can't relate with us. Even if we feel it that in the feedback form, will there be a change? We are not sure about that. So but like in the program that I went, it was like we were optimistic that some change will happen. And yeah, there was a little bit change. Like Kerala didn't the government schools in Kerala didn't um, entirely took NEP in their school programs. They are like simply like step by step they are taking the policies after hearing our concerns as well. So I think in that regard, what is needed is that policymakers and students should work together. It's not just a symbolic representation, not just giving feedback form to the students and asking them to fill their like a Likert scale, whether it is good or whether it's bad. Like they should hear what the students want to say, and it should be a representative democracy kind of stuff and not symbolic representation. I think representation more matters more. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Sneha. You did. I was actually not aware of the fact that government schools were actually doing this much, taking so much effort in Kerala. That's surprising that they are actually taking in students and asking for them. But you are right. One of the problems that we do have is everything is symbolic. It's all just a kind of a show. And India's biggest enemy is definitely the forms. And we always fill a form, but there is no work that's done beyond that. So thank you for highlighting that. That's a good point you raised, and a different perspective you gave. Does anybody have anything to add or maybe question?
Adding on to that, actually, that's one of the reasons why the Kerala mein the education quality is good, and two, it has the most number of literate, students in the entire country. They do make an effort to actually help people represent themselves as a whole, and as from their particular community or anything that they are having a problem with. They are very inclusive and adaptive of what the real world needs instead of just making it like a paper thing. So I really love that point.
Yeah, I agree with you. If only all rural schools would do this in India, we wouldn't even need so much of a discussion. You're right. Okay, next is Sai Krishna. I hope I'm right. Are you there?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so I would like to say about my perspective. So for a long time, schools have been places where decisions about students are made without students, and even if it's about rules or teaching methods or even about what we learn, it's all decided by school administration or teachers who think they know what's best for us. Like how Sneha and Janvi has mentioned about the generation gap between the students and administration preparing our curriculum. Of course, we can't definitely cannot say that they know what's best for us. But recently, to an extent, we could also see a shift in people's perspective and thoughts where they have started to think like students should the ones who are actually living through the system every day, like they have a say in shaping it. So, first of all, let's imagine a school where students help design lessons that connect with real life. For example, learning history through films or podcasts or creating science project that tackles local problems. So when I say this, I would like to say one of my experience. Like during my school times, when I was in seventh or eighth grade, I was very curious to read a newspaper section, which was solely dedicated for news regarding Shastrotsavam, which is a science fair conducted in Kerala, and it's just like an annual school fest. Like there will be sub district, then we will go to district, state, like that. The competition will go like that. So in that there were news about students where they create working models which will help to tackle local problems. Like I don't remember exactly one example to say, but what I wanted to say is that when students are given the chance to contribute ideas and create solutions, if they are given a role in shaping school policies or learning methods, education can become more collaborative, practical, and truly meaningful. Also, how Chaitanya has mentioned about the school students council, that but if it's a school students council that doesn't just plan events but actually works with teachers to review school policies, it will also help address issues faced by students, like how our college students council addresses issues faced by us in college. So when students are co-creators, education becomes more meaningful. So we stop being passive receivers of knowledge and become active participants in our own learning. And it also helps build responsibility, confidence, and creativity among students. Then also it will help teachers to understand what actually engages us, because learning isn't one size fits all, right? So, and of course, it's not that easy also to get to be done as well. Some might say like students don't yet have the experience or maturity to make such big decisions. And there's also risk that too much voices, which could slow down the process or can lead to conflict as well. So, but what I believe is that it's a part of their learning to write. And even negotiations, then teamwork and understanding different perspectives are also skills for real life. So maybe my answer is still about like giving students complete control, but building students or teachers administrative collaboration where like teachers can bring their expertise and lived experience, and students can also bring their creative side. So we could combine all this together and work like a collaborative system. And after all, like students aren't schools aren't just about exams or grades. Like they're about preparing us to be thoughtful citizens. And definitely it's better to start from school itself, because learning democracy from a school level can be helpful for our future life as well. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
That is a great point that you brought in, Sai Krishna. That is actually a good thought for especially a country like India that's a democracy. If children from school learn how to negotiate and come to a common consensus, then they are already being created as good citizens for democracy like India. That's a good part that you brought in. Does anybody want have any points or new perspectives to add to? Okay, I guess we are good here. Thank you, Sai Krishna. Let's go to the next person. Ridhima, are you there?
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. I think this is something so beautiful about discussions is realizing that like most of my reflections are just like a synthesis of like separate elements that everybody has mentioned. Anyways, Chaitanya mentioned the thing about student council, and that was something that I was thinking about when I read this topic, is that in 11th and 12th in my school, I was part of the school corps. And I think that experience shaped my life so much because schools are basically there to teach you how to live, right? Like they're there to prepare you for life. And one of the most important parts of your life is taking agency of your own choices and decisions. And for most of my school years as well, since I was not part of like co-curricular activities, I felt as if I was like a passive passenger in my own education. But in 11th and 12th, when I took up school council, they put me in the position of being an actor and being like an active agent. And I think that is something incredibly important, is that I was able to sort of discuss with other people. I was able to solve problems. It developed my critical thinking a lot. It also made me more willing and happier to to like engage in public speaking, which is like a very important skill. But I wasn't the only one who benefited from something like this. It was also the school, because having young people talk, explore and talk about their own experiences, it brings in like a fresh perspective, and that is so important. I'm really bad with names, so I don't remember who, but somebody talked about how most of the people are boomers who are, making our curriculums, and that is really true. Sometimes you think that what you're learning is so outdated, or even the way that you're learning it is so outdated that it makes you really bored, to be completely honest. And I think a fresh perspective just like helps us so much to get over that. Moving forward, I would like to mention ki I think everybody should look up the ladder of participation in curriculum design, which basically talks about how um different actors in this designing process contribute in different ways and to different extents. And that is, I think, very important, is that there's, for example, on a lower level, teachers would take student feedback from students and change their curriculums designed on that. And then on a higher level, students would have an active say in what to teach or how to teach. So I think it's a very interesting model that everybody should like look up once. Um, but also I think one of the most important parts of this system, if implemented, would be that there would need to be an atmosphere of mutual respect. A lot of times students and young people are treated as if they're too ignorant, or as if they don't know, or they're not mature, and that would make it like an unfair power balance between the dynamics. And that is one thing that, if implemented, this system would have to be very careful about. To just conclude my thoughts, I would say that you can't really expect somebody to be mature without giving them the opportunity to develop that maturity, right? So I think it's very important. Somebody else, again, I'm really bad with names, but somebody else also talked about mentorship. So that idea is genuinely very brilliant, because you have to give students the space to explore and even to make mistakes and fail terribly for them to realize how to succeed. And so I think this model, this system would be a very great addition to our education system. That's it.
Thank you, Ridhima. That is a great way to put things in perspective. I think I agree with you that our education policy is definitely on board on when you're in nursery and then departure in class 12 and completely clueless in what's happening. And one of the things that you mentioned is actually a good one, that we can actually, have children have some kind of say, because it is quite ironic that children are judged in school, which is the very place they are supposed to learn. So letting children actually make mistakes and learn will help them become what we expect them to be. So that was good. Thank you, Ridhima. Does anybody have any new perspectives or opinions or something different that they want to say?
I would just like to add that talking about failure, I think in our country, especially, failure is such a big taboo where you're supposed to like not even try new things just to avoid it. And I think at a school level, if you implement a system that allows for space to fail and learn, I think that would lead to a much better outcome later in life where you wouldn't be paralyzed by any decision you make. So yeah.
You're right. Failure is definitely something that we are told as a big no. You can never fail. No scope for failing. Yeah, schools definitely need to change that.
I would
Okay.
just like to add to that. So, failure, right? When students are given an opportunity to have a say in the curriculum or policy, I feel like they will be accountable also, for failing or passing. Right now, all students do is blame the system, blame the curriculum, blame the policy. So, once they are given that sort of a push to actually go out there and, tell their opinions or whatever, it eventually comes to where even if they are failing, it's no more a taboo, and they are able to kind of take an accountability for why they are doing say good or bad academically. So I feel like that's a great point to consider.
Yeah, accountability is such a great point to bring up because as I was researching for this, I found that in places where this system had been implemented, so multiple courses, especially online, and like more liberal arts inclined courses like introduction to gender, courses like that, they found that when students were able to sort of like be responsible for something, when they felt responsible for their own education, they also took more enjoyment in learning. And that was like a statistic. I can share it if you guys want. But it was just like very interesting that making students accountable and responsible for something would increase their enjoyment as well and would again make them like more active in their own education.
That's actually a good one. That children, if they actually love what they do, there is actually good lesser scope for failure. And even if there is failure, children would see it for what it is, which is how we all are said. Failure is not a bad thing, but a stepping stone towards success. So maybe it's time we make the quote a reality.
Okay, so I would like to add one open-ended question before we go ahead. So, how do we draw the line between giving students a voice and letting their preferences dominate the academic priorities? How will we distinguish between them?
So I feel like we can create a system where students give out their opinions to selected representatives who are students as well, and they can like filter it out, right? Like they can filter out what preferences or what opinions they have is kind of right or whatever, and there should be like a procedure for that as well to elect the representatives, and then further we can like a setup of like a hierarchy, I think would be great to like filter out the um you know whether what they're asking for actually will bring a change or not.
I also think on like a more ideological and like philosophical wavelength, I also think that at the end of the day, it's something that we have to learn that teachers and students are aiming at the same thing, which is learning something, right? And I think so the question of like domination of a student's ideas isn't inherently bad. It's very, very possible that a student has great ideas, that multiple students just have great ideas. It's also equally possible that they have the stupidest ideas ever. And uske liye, of course, we'll need a system like Ishita suggested. But I think the first step would sort of be to like internalize that we're working towards the same thing, and and academia would more or less benefit from like a fresher perspective.
Yeah, so we need to balance out so that we make sure that needs of students is not hindering the long-term growth of themselves. Avani, you can move ahead.
Okay, thank you. Next, I guess we have um, Ishita. Okay, yeah, Ishita.
Yeah, so I would just like to bring in the rural perspective again, because so when we talk about changing the education policies or whatever through students, we are talking about how students in the urban schools have the like might get the opportunity to actually go ahead and like put their opinions out, but like states like Kerala are obviously taking initiatives for like government schools and everything, but I feel like on a wider perspective, this is something which is really lacking behind. And also while researching, I read an example of this where in New Zealand, like a couple of students were given the opportunity to put their perspectives out, and with that they brought in so there's this community called a Maori community, which is an um, indigenous group in New Zealand. So the students were able to incorporate their history into the curriculum. So I feel like these kind of initiatives taken up by the students will sort of provide more representation to indigenous and marginalized groups in India, which is, I think, a great deal to begin with, because that is something which we haven't seen, and we do is, like, as people mentioned, we study something which is so irrelevant to us and like outdated. So I feel like these things which will definitely bring more relevancy to it. And also I would like to talk about student council situation that is in India. So the thing is, student councils that are appointed, first of all, one drawback is most of them are appointed through the administration. So eventually they listen to the administration itself. They do not listen to the students, because they are also kind of under that pressure of their academics or their performance or whatever that their reasons might be. So I feel like the responsibility given to the student council should definitely change, and it should not just become something that they organize fests in college. That's all I think it's limited to at this point. So I feel like that should really change, and they should be able to actually suggest the administration for changes, like clean toilets, or when it comes to other policies and curriculum as well. So yeah, these were the 2 points I wanted to bring in. Thank you.
I love the fact that you brought in the concept of integrating culture into education. That is actually a great one. Basically, localizing your education system. That is good, because I think we have had prior discussions where we did say that India's diversity does hinder an education policy. So, yeah, if we can just localize our policies and let students decide on what is good for them, even in a cultural manner, that is actually going to increase the participation. And one of the things that you did mention is actually very good, the student council one. I do agree. The highest point of their success is organizing a successful fest, and it's not the best use of a student council. So, yeah, a student council does need to have more than just organizing a good fest and highest prizes. That was a good one, Ishita.
I also, sorry, I just wanted to add something. So I just remembered there was the riots going on in Manipur, and the students of our college wanted to organize a silent protest for them. Like, we would just be in solidarity with them, okay? And we had to do all of that in kind of a secrecy, even though it was something which was needed. Like, it was just what we were doing to be in solidarity with them, and even that was not allowed. And the student council, like themselves, as I said, they were under the administration, they were asked for us, like, not to hold this and stuff. So, and then eventually what happened was, the administration promised us that, don't worry, we will do the silent protest which you were trying to do. And how did that turn out? That was a closed auditorium program. So I feel like when they know that this is something good that we are trying to do, the students are trying to do something that will make an impact, they don't want to consider that. So I think but they know that it's going to make a difference, but they also kind of don't want to take the accountability again that children are capable of doing something like this. They feel like they have to do this on a administrative level or like a professional level or whatever. So yeah.
You're right. We have this problem is that I think even in schools and colleges that students are something, they are completely senseless beings that have no ideas or thought process whatsoever. And just like Sneha said, that everything is symbolic. Even student council, we all talk about, we all have seen a student council. Many of you have been in one, but yeah, it's all symbolic. It's just still sports day and annual events. That is a problem indeed. Thank you, Ishita. Thank you so much. Okay, next we have Ishika. Ishika, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. So the topic being should students be co-creators of school policy and curriculum? I'd like to bring one instance which might seem like offbeat from education, but like when Jacinda Ardern was the Prime Minister of New Zealand, so she invited a child, like a 12-year-old girl. I don't remember her age, but I think she's 12-year-old or 16-year-old girl to be like the Prime Minister for a day. Or we keep seeing these things that, we see that, children are invited or given the roles and responsibilities so that they understand what exactly it is to be a creator of a policy, or to basically analyze that what kind of policies do the children of tomorrow want for themselves, for their peers, and how do they see the world. So I think similarly, students being the co-creators of policy is very necessary because we are designing policy for the future, and those children are the students are the future of tomorrow. So that is necessary. Now I think that everybody has enough spoken enough about why it is like necessary, and there are like how many positive points, like we need engagement, we need ownership, we need it for an effective learning platform, we need it to make mistakes and learn at an early stage, so that because that is what is relevant, and to learn the value of accountability for students is also very necessary once we are designing policy, because when we are the creators, it is we who are to blame, and the entire thing that they don't know enough or they don't care for us enough, the narrative kind of shifts. So I think that this needs to, how I imagine this needs to be a policy shift as to how we are making the voice of the students heard, and how are we helping the children or the students to be co-creators of school policies. Now, everybody has spoken about student council, but a very small instance that I like to share is that in my school we used to have these suggestion boxes kept at like every corner, one in front of the in front of the principal's office, one in the foyer, and one in front of every coordinator's office, like outside every coordinator's office, and students could anonymously come and put in their suggestions in that, and then once every month the top 5 best suggestions were spoken out in the assembly, and then action on them were taken. So this is what I saw, and this was like the first step that I saw that, oh, if I actually have an interesting idea, something that actually makes a difference, it will be taken up. For example, I went to a girls' school, and when there was this law of this Asifa and other rape cases and crimes against women were happening, and somebody had in the suggestion box put it that it's high time and there needs to be action, and it was a girl who had faced like faces there every day. We as girls read news and we face similar horror. So somebody had just written on in the suggestion box in front of the principal's office, and my principal at that time was a very proactive leader who used to take a lot of initiatives and actually read and take action. And then surprisingly for me also, but the whole administration came together and he had organized a march in Delhi against all of this, like a silent protesting march from our school to a point nearby. And this is like one thing, where somebody's suggestion or somebody's policy suggestion or a suggestion for an action actually was translated. So I think the co-creators is necessary, but it also necessitates a collaboration. We had we were talking about collaboration between the administration, the school, and the teachers in learning, in even in the previous policy months. And I think that this is just a continuation to that. That for active co-creation, we need active collaboration between students and the administration at constant levels, so that we are not just deciding the curriculum but also implementing that, because the implementation part is the bit that lags. So I think student councils, small student arrangements, even like group clubs or uh, competitions, like suppose we do logo making competitions, we can do a syllabus making competition or something of that sort, which are like stimulating activities. Like if you were given an opportunity to add one thing to your curriculum, what would it be? And if one activity or one thing from the curriculum is even taken up every year across different schools, how much difference can it make? That is something that is a stimulating thought, and I think we can see that this is one thing that we can follow on as a policy suggestion from my end.
Thank you, Ishika. You did bring out a very unique perspective, but at the same time, a suggestion that we can have competitions, which is great because at the end of the day, we are talking about students and these little children in school, and competition is definitely a great way to not only make them participate, but also, when it's competition, I think children think more. They think out of the box, and that is a great thing. But also, your school is definitely good. This is the first time I'm hearing a school principal actually doing something about the suggestion boxes, because ours was definitely not taken into consideration. But what I do learn from your school is that one thing that I know everyone is saying, that we need children to speak up, we need children to speak up. And just like Janvi said, we have definitely old people, but as you said, that when a person actually does something from the suggestion students do, a big change is created. So yeah, that thank you. That's a good different argument you came up with. Thank
And
you,
yeah,
Shikha.
man, that's the one thing that I just say, that it is obviously we need a very progressive administration. Like I saw three principals over the time, and I saw one who was very proactive. I also saw somebody who was not. But then obviously we need to remember the good people and we need to take forward their good work and learn from them.
It is definitely highlighting in you that one different person definitely made an effect in a lot of students. Thank you. Does anybody have anything to add? Maybe a different experience, maybe that they have had? Okay, I think maybe we can go to the next person then. Avani, are you there?
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So, at this point, I have nothing new to add to this discussion. But yeah, I highly agree with everyone's points, suggestions about student councils, filtering out the best suggestions by student representatives, and the idea that Janvi brought about higher grades, suggesting what are the improvements that are needed to be changed. Like when we are students in present, we do not know what is happening to us, but when we grow up, then we realize that how much we suffered, and what are the actual things that could have been worked upon. So yeah, I highly agree with that Janvi's idea of giving suggestions by the high graders. We all are students, we all want to be heard, and mm, we all relate with that. But yes, a problem arises with implementation, and unfortunately change is not going to be in overnight. This is a very long process, and it will take decade or maybe a two to get changed. And I think when we all become policy makers and teachers, we will be doing changes in the curriculum and policy designing. So yeah, I agree with everyone's ideas, everyone's suggestions, but right now I have nothing to speak unique about it. Thank you.
It's okay, Avani. I agree with you. All of the people have definitely brought up unique perspectives, and you are right. One thing you said that in India, it is going to take a time. Even if we talk about bringing in all these things, it might take a decade, it might take 2 decades. But yeah, implementation slow, but at least implementation done would make a change. Thank you, Avani. Next. Rajveer, are you there?
Hope I'm audible enough.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. So, as many of people discuss about the accountability of the students, but one thing we have to understand: everyone has not the same maturity level. As we see in a school, every child has a different dedication towards their school. Some takes a school very seriously because of their family background and in which school they are. So we can't fully give them the authority for the to to create a rules and the regulation, but we can take it as a suggestion by them, and if it align with the schools we can implement it. But I think that's what we do in our colleges also, with the feedback or the suggestion for our classes or for the any new for our societies. So that's the thing we can do. We can take a suggestion, and then if it's aligned with the schools rules and regulation we can implement it. So that's what I think as of now.
Thank you, Rajveer. You are right. There are going to be some students who have some wild suggestions. So it is definitely necessary that there has to be some kind of protocol or a filter that looks out
Yeah.
a process that is seeing. Because if somebody wants to literally do rocket science in the literal sense, which is rocket science, then that
Yeah.
kind of cannot be taken in. You're right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Rajveer. Um,
I think, Fani, you have muted yourself.
Okay, thank you. There are no more names in the chat box, but there are still people in the meeting. Anybody else who is willing to give their point of view, please, maybe.
Praful, Sagar, Himani, you guys didn't spoke.
Yeah, I want to speak, Sagar. This.
Okay,
May I go
Sagar.
ahead?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I also have a little different view because everybody is favoring it. So I think I should also point out some backlashes of it. Firstly, as mentioned by Rajvi, that the students have very diverse perspective and they are immature, which is to some extent very logical because they are learning people and with little experience. So this should be taken into account when we are referring them to as co-creators, because referring them to as co-creators means giving them a certain degree of authority and also ownership of the responsibility that whatever will be the consequences they will also have to bear. But if what if the things go wrong, there is a high possibility that these students can sometimes go by the social media trends, etc., and they end up suggesting some policy, or they become very stubborn in implementation of some policy which may not be in good favor in long run. And due to their short-sightedness, because of taking initiatives and trying something new, they sometimes might end up making some policies which may not be good in long run. And when they realize this, how I don't know how much they will be mature enough, like people of class 5 or class 7, how will they be able to bear the responsibility. So that should be taken into account when we are giving them such responsibility. Other thing is that the time constraints as well as the burden, because the Indian education system, if we talk about, is already very burden full, because we have a lot of syllabus, etc. And when we are mentioning about policy making, then this also requires a good amount of research work as well as surveys, etc., to get or to a good to get to a good conclusion, which is actually practical in the long run. So when students who have already the burden of examination, etc., and then giving them this another responsibility might not be a very good solution in the long run if we are going with the current setup of syllabus, etc. So, what could be the other alternative? What I feel is that we can consult them, as also mentioned by earlier speakers, that there were suggestions, works, etc. This is a very good solution because this makes the children feel that they are being heard. At the same time, the responsibility is not on them. They are just as the they are just required to suggest it, not take the responsibility of the actual action, etc. It depends on the administration, the teachers, and who can see its fallbacks, etc., and then try to implement it. But it also depends on their intention as well, which is not very good. At times, they just want to remain at the status quo. But if some visionary leader comes, then we can have that. Also, there is one more solution that I want to highlight is of parent teacher council, which exists in our school and various schools in my region, wherein there are parent teacher PTAs, it is called. So parents who are very close to their children, and who also have different diverse backgrounds, they come up and share their opinions with the teachers and the administration about the book recommendation, about the changes in the syllabus, etc., or what extracurricular activities that can be added. So this adds a one layer of filter, that is when the children suggest it to their parents, who are in my opinion, the best well wishers of their children. Then they analyze it, and then if they find it good enough to be suggested, then they go and suggest in the PTA meetings. So this could be yet another solution that we can work upon. This was much from my side.
Thank you, Sagar. That is a new perspective you have brought in and a new solution also, that for co-curriculum and co-creation, as many of us have highlighted, that children might not know what's best for them, and the best thing that we can do is have parents also get in, which is good. This does cut short the whole process because children can suggest what do they think to the parents, which I think children are more comfortable. You are right, children are more comfortable with the parents are also the well wishers. So yeah, good solutions can come up through the parents, and then of course the school can decide what works and what does not. So that was a great thing, a new path that you have brought in. Does anybody have anything to add on, maybe?
I
Or
just wanted to add to that. I think it's a great point where you actually make some use out of these PTAs, because in most schools it's just about parents, like being mad about low scores or whatever it is. Because I feel like the students, when there are complaints about like whatever, maybe they're not comfortable with the teacher or anything, uh, this has to be conveyed to the teacher, which I feel like is left out because of like a communication gap, because there's no platform as such where you can actually tell the teacher that my child is facing this problem with you, like personally or something like that. So I feel like it's very vague, these PTMs that are held, and this is a great way to actually make sense of such meetings.
yeah, you're right, Ishita. PTMs can then become something we less fear because it's not just a problematic situation where the student is definitely going to get into deep waters when they get home, and maybe something new for the teacher to learn. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to share their point of view? What do they like about this? What do they do not like about this? Any new speakers, maybe?
Praful, are you here?
Hi, may I speak?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. So I was slightly busy because I have an exam, so I was not able to properly research on the topic. So I decided that I'd be an active listener for this policy manthan session. But today, listening all like different suggestions, different perspective, one like example or one incident that came to my mind was my cousin. He is in 11th standard right now, and about the thing that students should suggest and all of that. So they like there is a standard found that MUNs is a current like hot thing which happens in school curriculums. So they tried to pitch the idea to the school like administration. Afterwards, the school administration didn't like approve of the idea of conducting an MUN. So for them, it is something that they presented, which was actually a great idea, and it is something that boosts the confidence of like students, and it also brings different perspectives together. But the other, like the flip side of it, this is that the school is also like working on like certain resources which they cannot uh, without proper like planning and without what they can pull out of that resource. They cannot function like that out of just whims or suggestions that the students have made. So what I thought is that is this is also something which is important to be considered: how much resources the schools have, also how much willingness the administration has. As suggested previously that we could set up suggestion boxes, that is a great thing. Also, for suggestion boxes, I think that can be something taken passively by the students as well, because a lot of students, they do not care कि क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा है. They think they have to just survive the school day. They're going there, and this is something that has to be done. And a lot of students take it like that only, that they have to pass the standard. For them, suggestion boxes might not mean something, and even some students who are really bright, but they do not just take it very actively. So the idea pitched by I'm not sure by who, but the competitions idea, that we can stimulate these competitions so that there is some sense of active citizenship within the school itself, that the students start thinking earlier in their life ki we can make a difference. How? By this thing. Like, this is my point of view.
Thank you, Himani. You did highlight a main problem in most of the schools, which is the fact that some of the schools don't have the resources. So, lack of resources, you're right. MUN is something that's actually going on right now. But then again, if a school does not have the resource or the capacity to hold a MUN, then the suggestion goes down the drain. And the fact that willingness, as most of us have highlighted, MUN, even if you have resources, you have smart children with smart suggestions, unwilling administration leads to a suggestion that just remains on a paper. You're right. Thank you, Mani. Next, first, does anybody have any feedback? And is there anybody else who would like to speak? No more names are there in the chat box. So if you want to speak, please go ahead. Feel free.
I have one more open-ended question. It may sound bit annoying, but with the same time, it is thought-provoking. So you must be aware that in Japan, students are responsible for cleaning their schools, and this practice is called, if I'm pronouncing right, Osuji. So if we are giving students a say in policy making, do you think such practical responsibility should be a part of school system in India too? What are your viewpoints on this?
But I think
Okay.
that this has been a part, because in gurukuls the students were taught to like be like they were taught to take care of all the classes. They were taught to how, like, the cattle thing, how to cattle rearing, and all of that was also a part of in gurukuls also. So I think this is something which is part of Indian tradition, but maybe with the modern education it has changed.
And bringing such practices will also help the children like to learn about how they should not discriminate, with the people who like clean or do services for us in schools, from very beginning they will learn to how to respect them and how to not bring in such thoughts of discrimination in the future, which I think happens a lot with children.
Also, I think one of the thing that helps with is also the fact that when people they start, it is not just work that you're doing for them, it is also responsibilities. You know how there are like 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are like like they can't keep their rooms clean, or they can't cook. There are actually subjects like humanities may there is an entire subject based out of it. So instead of making it an educational thing and working on it as a subject, I think it's good that every person, they'll also be responsible now because of the activities. They'll be responsible. They'll be respectful towards each other.
I would like to also say that, yeah, I agree with what Ishita and Janvi said, that it is going to make children responsible. This is my personal opinion, just personal. I think that we should have this because I think children nowadays have a lot of ego. They do not have empathy. I'm not generalizing. There are children who are empathetic and kind, but in general, children are turning into unkind children. I think these things, in my opinion, would make them understand how hard it is to do such things. Like cleaning up before you leave, cleaning up, making sure your bathrooms are clean, making sure classes are clean. I think this is going to teach children discipline, but at the same time, what hard work truly is. Because children do need that. Maybe like a taste of your own medicine. When they work hard and they do the things, they will automatically want to keep things that way because they know how hard it was to clean up in the first place.
Exactly. And also, the smallest thing like switching off the fans and lights before you leave, even that comes down to the ego. Like even I think I'm sure all of us as children also might have been that or seen people around where they are like, there is someone to come and do that. Why should we do it? So I think doing such practices, making it more like instilled in them since since a young age will be really good for their egos to calm down.
Yeah, I also wanted to add one instance, that is, during my school days, there was one initiative taken by our principal, that was to have a 5 minutes 5s period before the recess, or after the recess, or during the recess. This was the culture, and because of which one each row, for one day, each row was assigned the responsibility to clean up the whole classroom and throw all the garbage in the dustbin. So this small practice led to sensitization among many of my batchmates, as well as in me as well, about the cleanliness and how difficult it is to throw someone else garbage into the dustbin, etc. And this led to the awareness among us, which also percolated to the parents of us. Now, from there onwards, whenever I find my parents throwing such packets while traveling, etc., I strictly try to make them feel what is the what are the possible repercussions of that, etc. And I try to pick that garbage and put it in my bag rather than throwing it here and there. So this behavioral change actually occurs when we start right from the school age, and especially in India, where the cleanliness part is often ignored. I think this should start right from school, so that not only children but also the parents are well made aware about its importance, and just not leave it to the safai karmcharis and do themselves the cleanliness around their our neighborhood area, etc.
Yeah, so basically, it will help us to, first of all, eradicate that caste thing which is associated with this kind of works. Secondly, to students to work on their ego for doing such kinds of works. And it will embedded value in students to behave well. Yeah, so that's it. Uh, Praful is the one who is left to speak. Are you here, Praful? Bani is someone else who is left,
Me.
but in the meeting. Okay, okay. You want to share your point of view? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, this has definitely gone too long, so I'll keep mine short. And first of all, most of us have highlighted the fact that we need a co-curriculum, we need children to take in, because we all know children know best. They are the ones who are in the system, they are the ones who are studying, they know better. And a lot of us have also highlighted some of the countries that have done an amazing job when it comes to having children co-create with the teachers, which one of them being Norway. Norway has done an amazing job where children are given the responsibility that here you go, here's your curriculum, what is your suggestions, what are your inputs, let us know. There are more countries, like someone said New Zealand, which also has taken in culture, which is a tribal culture that's there in New Zealand, and they are teaching children, which is also necessary because children need to know who are the people in the society they are living with. Now, while co-creation with children is amazing and great, one thing that also has been highlighted is the fact that children do not know best. When you're talking about children, you're talking about teenagers. If they don't like something, they want to get rid of it. And if there's anyone like me who hated maths, you will know I would have done anything as a 14-year-old to get rid of maths from my curriculum. But what we do need to understand is, now as a 23-year-old, I do understand maths is important. You do need maths. Maybe not the tan cos theta where you stand up in a building, look down, and are supposed to measure what's the height. Nobody needs that. But you definitely need basic maths. So the middle ground, I think, that can be done when it comes to do children co-create or not. I think the middle ground is, yes, let children co-create, but let's have non-negotiables on the table. What does that mean? There is some percentage of syllabus that you can co-create. Basic things like maths, English. India needs English. We have been colonized. We do have place for English, but at the same time, because of the English learning that there's there in India, a lot of Indians are able to work abroad, which other countries are not, because English is not that prevalent in their country. So certain subjects like local languages, for example, I live in Delhi, so I needed Hindi. If you're living in some other state, you might need the local language to at least have some kind of basic interaction. So let's have some non-negotiables on the table, and the rest let children decide. Let children do what they want. What does this do? Children are willing, as most of us said. If you are allowed to study what you want to study, you are more willing to study. You think more, you act more. There is less scope for failure, but at the same time, even if you fail, it's not disheartening, because you want to do no more. You think, oh well, I must have missed out on something, let me do more research, let me do better. So you want to study. What happens then is you have less dropout rates. India does have a bigger problem, which is dropout rates. We have big dropout rates. What else can be done is, with the non-negotiables, what we can do is, when we are letting children decide certain subjects, let's have a broader scope. We have AI, we have robotics, but what we can also do is localized learning, which also was highlighted. What can be done? For example, Bihar and Jharkhand are in the places where there is a lot of mining, there's power plants. So what you can do is let children learn about it from school. Let them have some subjects that teaches them about mining engineering, power plant engineering. How do you deal with it? What it is about? What are you doing? Is that one of the problems that we have is these states that I just mentioned, Bihar, Jharkhand, they don't have job opportunities, what people want, the stereotypical one. So everyone goes to other states, which is Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, and that's where they do job. What we can do is when we localize education, we are localizing employment. The people who are in the state know the problem, the things better than anybody else. A person in Bihar, a person in Jharkhand knows what are the benefits of mining, what's the problem, areas that are great over there, better than me, a person in Delhi. Let them learn what's better for their state. Let them be employed over there. Now, if a person in Bihar, if a person in Jharkhand is studying mining or power plant or renewable energy, they are going to get employment over there. They are going to be great there. They are going to specialize over there. Similarly, one of the things that I did mention earlier, which is Kerala. Kerala can bring up with marine biology. What happens? The student in Kerala knows about the weather, the ocean, the life more than anybody else. When they do it, when they study the localized subjects, they don't not only are studying what something that they are more aware of, but it also helps them to get out of the class. These things, as they can study outside the class, they can go to certain places, they can ask certain people, and they can get input from the people who know, which is like a generation ahead from them. So what India can do is it can co-create with children. It can have non-negotiables on the table, that these are subjects that are not going anywhere because children might want to get rid of them. Such certain subjects are not going. We localize subjects so that children are keen to learn without hampering their education. So by the time you're getting out of 12, you know something that's going to help you, but at the same time, you also have basic communication skills, you have a basic language that you know, and you don't miss out on maths. So that's my input. Thank you.
Awesome, Vani. First of all, you did great as moderator. And secondly, you did, as you always do, great as speaker too. I love that even after speaking at last, you brought the new points in. And the very first, as you always speak of giving autonomy to states, here you came up the same with the same point, and which is very insightful, because yeah, you're very true that different states have different resources and different states have different job opportunities. So if we will teach the students in that particular state about those opportunities, about those resources, it will help us to grow. And the second point I love is about non-negotiables. While taking the feedback of students, let's keep some points as non-negotiable, that no, we won't alter this. So very great. Yeah.
Thank you, Rishika. You definitely helped me a lot with the whole coordinating. Thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Last call for. Okay.
Sorry, so I missed the last meeting. Was the moderating thing like a part of that? Like, were you able to volunteer as a moderator because in the last meeting or something?
No, that's the new thing which sir asked me
Okay.
to do so. So we started from this particular session on.
Okay, got it.
Oh, anyone else who is left? I think so. Still, Praful is in the meeting, but she is not responding. Okay, so let's conclude. First, thank you for everyone for sharing your thoughtful perspectives, and a special thanks to Vani for being a co-moderator. Yeah, it was truly insightful to hear so many diverse viewpoints and on whether the students should play an active role in shaping school policies and curriculum. From the discussion, few themes that emerged, like very first was students should have a voice, because someone rightly mentioned that it gives them the sense of leadership, accountability, and ownership, which is needed ahead when they move ahead in their life. Then, with the same time, we also acknowledge that the student participation must be careful. There are certain concerns that, like inequal representation, risk of conflict, if too many voices will get involved, and the possibility of discussion being driven by popularity rather than expertise. These were the certain concerns. Yeah, These were the certain points. Then there were one more point which was going throughout the meeting, which is the student council thing. That student council should go beyond the planning events. They should serve a platform for policy input and constructive feedback. And then Sagar also mentioned about involving parent-teacher councils to ensure the collaboration between all stakeholders. While Janvi suggested including higher grade students when performing policies for lower grades. That was very thoughtful and inclusive approach. Then, if I'm right, Ishita mentioned the example of Maori community, if I'm pronouncing right, in New Zealand, which reminds us that when students are encouraged to share their perspectives, it can lead to the greater cultural inclusion and representation. And there was one more point which was very good. The idea of competition or forms to gather the innovative student suggestions and was appreciated as a creative way to embed student voices into the curriculum planning. As we will, and if we will keep this thing as a competition, students will go out of their box and think more. Uh, uh, doesn't matter if they are thinking to win also, but they are bringing the new points into the discussion. Yeah. And in conclusion, our discussion shows that while students should be co-creators, the model must remain balanced, guided, and inclusive, combining the energy of youth with experience of educators. So thank you all of for contributing to such a meaningful and respectful dialogue. And now I would like to hand over to Vani, my coordinator, to contribute with closing remarks or final reflections.
Thank you, Rishika. Yeah, I do feel like this time, as somebody who is hearing, I did learn more. I think I was more attentive. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. I do appreciate all the inputs that were given. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you were by mistake muted. You can speak again. I'm very sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so Chaitanya, Janvi, Ishika, Sagar, as you mentioned, they did give a lot of new perspectives. And Sai Krishna also, I think she's the one who came up with the mentor suggestion. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity also. And I hope I was somewhat close to what Rishika and Shri do every day. Thank you.
Okay, people, thank you. We will meet in next policy manthan. Yeah, that's it. Bye.